Do you know what I love about our slave collars, Lieutenant?
If you love them, maybe you should try one on.
I love how tightly they fit. I train my men to make sure the slave's flesh bulges a bit around the top and bottom. Know why?
It's all the rage in fashion circles?
Not quite. If you fit it just right, their body never gets used to the feeling of wearing it. It cuts in just enough when they swallow or turn their head to remind them who they belong to.
Silas is an acting Centurion of Caesar's Legion, and during the events of New Vegas, an unfortunate prisoner of war. He is being held in a cell by the NCR in their camp at the ruins of McCarran Airport. When we encounter him, he's in a bit of a bind, and to understand his dilemma, we must go back to the events that led him here in the first place. It's unclear whether Silas was born into the Legion or assimilated from one of the dozens of conquered tribes that line the Legion's ranks. What is clear, however, is that Silas was exceptional, is exceptional. Through bravery and devotion, he climbed his way up the ranks, battle after battle, until he held the esteemed title of Centurion. This title in of itself speaks volumes to the strengths of Silas, as even Chief Hanlon believes there aren't tougher warriors than Legion Centurions, not even his very own Rangers. To complement this, Centurions are also some of the most exceptional leaders in the Legion, just under that of legates, having spent years leading men as Decani before even being considered for their new roles. Centurions have proven intelligent enough to make sound strategic decisions and bold enough to move on the enemy when the odds are against them. And these tactics, as shown in game, have proven extremely effective.
You think I could get where I was in the Legion army if I feared death? I've led charges against men with guns, carrying only my knife. And I can tell you, it was they who feared me.
It's a modest presence, a single finger of the Legion reaching across the river's narrows. But with me here, it has an iron knuckle.
Prior to his imprisonment, Silas was the head of a Centuria, a lethal Legion strike force. The exact size of this unit is unclear in game, but we can assume it's either 100 troops, as the name implies, or that it's around 80, as this was the historical Roman standard. Either way, it's a decent enough force to do some serious damage with. Silas's strike force was primarily responsible for clearing strategic locations from NCR occupation so that Legion agents could move around freely in the area, likely to gather intel, establish supply lines, and move larger troop units without constant threat of attack, all of which are evident in the Legion staging areas, such as that of Cottonwood Cove. Prior to his capture, Silas's Centuria was waiting for Caesar to dispatch them for a specific mission. It's unclear what exactly this mission entailed, but Silas expresses that the nature of it was time critical. When Caesar was supposed to dispatch them, he was struck with debilitating headaches and isolated himself in his tent, refusing to give orders. As such, Silas and his Centuria remained on standby for 3 days while Caesar recovered. Once Caesar finally dispatched them, Silas and his men ended up marching right into an NCR ambush, showing they had missed the time-critical window for this mission to be successful. The Centuria fought hard and valiantly, but were ultimately routed. Recognizing defeat, Silas's men began to off themselves in order to avoid capture, just as Caesar had ordered them to do. Only Silas wouldn't follow suit. He knew he was defeated, but refused to fall on his sword and throw away all he had worked for. He viewed it as a show of cowardice to the enemy, and a waste of one of the Legion's best and most loyal soldiers. Recognizing his worth and knowing he had a chance at survival, he surrendered, and was soon taken into NCR custody, while the blood of his brothers pooled around him. Upon his arrival at Camp McCarran, he glanced upon many faces, the faces of his enemies, with some bearing excitement over his capture, others bearing the scars of painful memories, hurt, hatred, disgust. But one of these faces bared a unique emotion, recognition. As Silas was rushed into his new home, he reflected back to a time long before this conflict had ever begun, before the battle of the bull and bear, to the candid of a young man, a legionary, who was once training to be a frumentari, a spy for the mighty Caesar. It was in that moment he realized he had laid eyes upon a brother, Caesar's spy in McCarran. He knew there was a spy here, as his Centuria often used the intel received from him to stage attacks against the NCR. And now that Silas recognized him and knew of the spy's high rank in the NCR's military hierarchy, he knew that he would soon be freed. He counted on it. But help never arrived. Days passed. Weeks. Possibly even months. No. For refusing to throw himself away in Caesar's service, he was abandoned by his brothers, left to rot in this cell indefinitely. But Silas would be free again, and if he couldn't count on his brothers, he'd count on himself. This is the state to which we encounter him during the events of the game. He is being held for questioning by the NCR Lieutenant, Carrie Boyd, who is making remarkably poor progress with him. Even despite being forsaken by his own nation, Silas remains loyal to the end, and refuses to divulge any Legion secrets. One of the remarkable aspects of Silas's personality is that he is acutely aware of the bigger picture, something that likely exists within, but is never expressed by, the other legionaries. Silas recognizes Caesar's degenerating health and understands that the Legion as a whole is suffering from it. He despises Caesar and refers to him as a megalomaniacal, self-appointed dictator. However, it's clear and evident that Silas loves the Legion, despite his feelings of its leader. He shows no regrets for any of his actions, no remorse for any of those he's hurt. He's proud of his rank and all the years of hard work he put in to achieve it. He wholeheartedly believes in the Legion's morals and its mission. Furthermore, he understands his true value as a Centurion of the Legion, and dismisses the notion that he's a traitor for disobeying Caesar, stating that he's useless to Caesar if he's dead, and that the order to off himself if captured comes out of Caesar's irrational paranoia, rather than it being a sound strategy. It's remarkable how much insight he has into these various matters, and surprising that he is well educated, despite the lack of priority for this in the Legion. During the game, we can take part in a quest called the Silas treatment, where we can either interrogate Silas for information, or we can help him escape. If we interrogate him, we prove that Caesar was right to worry about his troops cracking under pressure, as Silas cracks immediately. There are several ways to go about this. The first method is to use speech in order to trick him into telling us about the spy that's planted in McCarran. Alternatively, if the courier has an intelligence of 8 or higher, we can convince him that we are a Legion assassin sent to dispatch him. This leads to him unintentionally revealing state secrets as he assumes we are in the loop with what he knows. And lastly, we can beat him within inches of his life, which will cause him to cave, stating that he'll tell you what you want to know, as he's dead to the Legion either way. However, if we free Silas before he talks, Caesar will comment on this by stating his approval of our actions, and that he is going to punish Silas for disobeying his orders. This implies that Silas returns to the Legion after escaping. It's also possible that he is on the run, and Caesar is going to deal with him regardless, likely with a Legion assassination squad. Either way, the fate of Silas at the hands of Caesar looks bleak. The world of New Vegas, as with our own reality, is not often filled with happy endings. Unfortunately for Silas, the chances of him having one here are near non-existent. If he never escapes custody, he'll likely be tried and executed by the NCR. But if he does, he will be hunted down and executed by the Legion. Only in the unlikely event that he escapes after Captain Curtis is dealt with and can't inform Caesar of his escape, will Silas have a chance at life yet again. And I hope he gets that chance, as Silas was one of the best and brightest in the Legion. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I've always believed Silas was a very tragic and underappreciated character. I hope this video helped you to appreciate him just a little bit more. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and until we meet next, Wale Amicus.